Right. So, just when I thought that there would be nothing else to talk about today, we get this story called Disney Argues It Had a First Amendment Right to Fire Gina Carrano for Offensive Posts. Now, her lawsuit has not reached the trial stage. This is just Disney trying to have the lawsuit thrown out. And I have mixed emotions about this. On the one hand, they're a private company, so unless you fall under a protected category for discrimination laws, yeah, they can pretty much fire you, especially if you're in a, like I am, a right to work state. So basically, they can fire you for the flimsiest of reasons and you really don't have any recourse. Now, not saying that that's right, but that's the way the laws are written. So, there is that, and on the other hand, claiming that a company has rights, like a First Amendment right, really reeks of Citizens United. So yeah, I'm not sure what to think about this. But anyway, let's continue. Disney argued Tuesday that it had a First Amendment right to fire Gina Carrano, the actor who played a bounty hunter on The Mandalorian, after she allegedly trivialized the Holocaust in an Instagram post. Carrano sued in February, arguing that the company unlawfully retaliated against her for expressing her personal political views, which were at odds with Disney's preferred ideology. No, sweetheart. It has nothing to do with ideology. You compared people being mean to you with the Holocaust. I mean, seriously. That's not a difference in ideology. That is a difference in humanity. I mean, seriously, how self-important do you think you are that your discomfort is the same as another group's millions of deaths? I'm just not sure where you get that from. And she's not the only one who does that. Disney's lawyers filed a motion on Tuesday to throw out the lawsuit, arguing that it has a constitutional right not to associate its artistic expression with Carrano's speech. And they're right. I don't know if it falls under the First Amendment, but yeah, they're a private company, and again, unless you're terminating someone for that falls under the discrimination clauses, yeah, they have every right to fire you if they don't feel comfortable having you around. That's just the way it goes. Alright, the case touches on a hot-button controversy over speech rights on social media. Elon Musk, I already wasn't feeling well. I now really don't feel well. The owner of X, formerly known as Twitter, announced last August that he would pay the legal bills of employees who had been fired for their posts on his platform. He later agreed to fund Carrano's lawsuit against Disney, which, ironically, they're not saying anything about her tweets, which they could have done that too, but they're specifically going against her Instagram post, which famously is not a part of Elon Musk's Twitter. So, yeah. Carrano was fired in February 2021 after she analogized the treatment of modern-day conservatives to the persecution of Jews in Nazi Germany, which, again, this has nothing to do with a matter of opinion or ideology. That is just mind-bogglingly stupid. I mean, yeah, I'm sure there are people who absolutely despise you for your views. Just like you try to get people to despise people who think like liberals for being liberal. And you don't seem to have a problem with that. So, and I still believe that a small part of this has to do with the fact that she also went after trans people, and the star of the show's sister is trans. I'm sure that played a part, even though nobody is saying that. Maybe they just don't want to drag Pedro Pascal and his sister into this, but I still believe that had something to do with it. Even if he was rarely on set because he just needs to do the voice, I'm pretty sure that had something to do with that. Now, whether they did it on his behalf or whether Pedro said something, that's a different discussion. But I still think that had something to do with it. All right. Because history is edited, true, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews, she wrote. Granted, this is true, but this isn't something that just started with Nazi Germany. Anti-Semitism has been going on since, well, basically since Christianity existed. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? There is a difference. Ethnicity. Your political views are not based on your ethnicity. Granted, you can convert to Judaism, that is a thing, but there is such a thing as an ethnic Jew. So, yeah, right there you're just wrong. Now, that obviously doesn't mean that, you should try to kill people who have different political views. But if your political view includes hating on a group of people for just existing, and then painting yourself out to be a victim when people turn that hate on you, is that really the same as what happened with Jews? This isn't scapegoating. You're actually saying shit that is harmful. So if you're going to say shit that's harmful and then whine when people stand up to you, is that really you being a victim, or is that you just being an asshole? Alright, Carrano had faced significant pushback for earlier social media posts in which he strongly objected to COVID restrictions, questioned the legitimacy of the 2020 election, because COVID restrictions, again, depending on the time when you were complaining about it and what the restrictions were, there was a case to be made. Questioning the legitimacy of the 2020 election. I mean, that just tells me that you live in Cuckooville. And refuse to show support for trans rights. Now, if you don't want to support trans rights, I don't think even trans people care about that. They just don't want you to actively prevent them from having rights, which is a difference. There's a difference between someone not supporting trans rights and actively working against trans rights. Two totally different concepts. So, according to her lawsuit, Disney forced her to have a 90-minute Zoom meeting with GLAAD, the LGBTQ rights organization, after she posted that her pronouns are boop, bop, beep. Now, she claimed she didn't quite understand, and I did see some of the tweets that prompted her to put her pronouns in her bio. And there was a shade of bullying. This idea that, oh, all the cool people are putting pronouns in their bio. You should do it too. And if you don't, that means you're anti-trans and you're a terrible person. Now, granted, that's not a way to get people to put pronouns. Just explain why this is a thing. And, we think you should do it because we like you. And we think you're pretty cool. But to get her to the point where she did that, no, it's entirely possible that she would have done that even if there wasn't any bullying involved. But she claimed that Pedro explained the point of pronouns to her, and then she removed that from her bio. Maybe I'm misremembering it, but I think that's what happened. I know she discusses with Pedro, and he explained the point of putting pronouns in your bio to support trans people. But for Disney, the Nazi post was the final straw, according to the company's motion. The company argued that the post trivialized the Holocaust by referring to thousands of Jews, not millions, and by likening their experiences to those of contemporary conservatives who face scorn on social media. Now, again, I'm pretty sure that even though they're not saying this, I'm pretty sure Pedro's comfort had something to do with this, because I wouldn't want to work with someone who actively was working against a loved one's right to exist. I certainly wouldn't want to work with them. So I still think that even though they're protecting Pedro and trying to keep him out of it, I still question how much that had to do with it. Again, whether Pedro said something or they decided on his behalf. And seriously, why are we lessening what the Holocaust was? Now, do I hate it that people generally focus on the Jews when it comes to the Holocaust? Well, obviously they're the ones who were impacted the most, so I understand it from that perspective. But, yeah, it would be nice if there was pointing out that it wasn't just Jews. And in the case of what we're talking about, her anti-trans stand, well, the Nazis had a problem with the LGBT plus community. So, and they had a problem with their political opponents. There were plenty of other groups that were victims of the Holocaust. So maybe it would be nice to possibly stem anti-Semitism by pointing out that it wasn't just Jews. Even though they were the group that was most affected by it. All right. Disney had enough, the motion states. The company put out a statement the same day saying it had no plans to hire her in the future and that her comments were abhorrent and unacceptable. Carrano sued under California law that prohibits employers from retaliating against employees for political activity. Yeah, political activity. It's really hard because have the Republicans made trans identity and any identity that isn't their own a subject of politicalization? Yes. But is it political? Should it be political? No. And seriously, Holocaust denial? How is that political exactly? It's not. Claiming that not as many people died in the Holocaust, that's just, that has nothing to do with politics. That has everything to do with you being an asshole. So, what politics are they retaliating you for? They're not. You just don't like that you got called out for an opinion. A shitty opinion. In its motion to dismiss, Disney argued that there is a broad exception for companies whose business is to engage in speech, such as newspapers and entertainment companies. To support its argument, the company invoked a law review article and a commentary written by one of Carrano's attorneys, UCLA law professor Eugene Volokh. Oh, that's just beautiful that they pointed to one of Carrano's attorney's very own articles to prove that they're they're not the bad guys here. I just love it. I love that a lot. That's karma to me. Employers that speak must necessarily speak through their employees, and when an employee or prospective employee says things, even off the job, that would undermine the employer's message, the employer must be able to distance himself from the employee, Wallach wrote in 2022. That sounds like exactly what Disney did. Now again, you can question whether that's valid, because I mean, you're not a representative of your company 24/7. I don't care what kind of job you're in. You should be allowed to have a personal life, voice your personal beliefs, and not have it have anything to do with your employment. However, when your personal beliefs clash with company culture, and again, in this case, I still truly believe that a part of this had to do with Pedro and his sister, and that that Disney decided to proactively, whether Pedro had anything to do with this or not, get rid of the woman who basically mocks his sister's very existence at the best. I mean, that sounds pretty legit. Every company has a culture, and if you don't fit into that culture, yeah, these things happen. Again, whether you feel, depending on what the situation is, you can argue whether it's right or wrong, but that's the way it is. Disney also cited two Supreme Court cases, Boy Scouts of America versus Dale and Hurley. Let's try that again. Boy Scouts of America versus Dale, and Hurley versus Irish American Gay, Lesbian, and Bisexual Group of Boston, in which the court held that organizations could not be compelled to associate with supporters of gay rights. That sounds fair. Now, I just don't see where Gina gets off that she's going to win this lawsuit. And if you recall in my last video about this, she also wants her job back. So basically, she's doing this as a way of forcing Disney to give her a job. So either the Daily Wire doesn't pay her as much as Disney did, or she wants to be relevant again, or something. But yeah, it's just very insidious what she's trying to do. Disney thus was entitled to protect its creative speech in the Star Wars series from association with views Disney and many viewers and potential viewers considered offensive and contrary to Disney's values, the company's lawyers wrote. The Carrano's presence as a prominent actor on The Mandalorian interfered with Disney's choice not to produce a show associated with her beliefs. And again, and I'll keep repeating this, I have no idea if it's true, but I wonder how much of this also had to do with either Pedro getting involved or people being offended on his behalf. Because, you know, she's saying anti-trans stuff. His sister is trans. Makes sense. Carrano has also alleged sex discrimination. She's throwing shit against the wall hoping something will stick. That's great. Arguing that Disney took no action against male actors Pedro Pascal and Mark Hamill when they made social posts analogizing President Trump and his supporters to Nazis. Big difference. They actually are right. If he and his supporters don't want to be compared to Nazis, then don't act like fucking Nazis. Nobody that she's trying to vilify are acting like Nazis. This just shows you have no freaking clue who the Nazis were. Because I'm sorry, my dear, but you're it. Disney argued that those statements were not comparable to Carrano's, and also that it would not matter if they were. Well, the sexism thing would, yeah. But, again, not comparable because she's making shit up. They are following what Trump and his supporters say. So the only thing we have that's different here is that they know their history. She does not. The First Amendment protects Disney's decision to dissociate itself from some speech, but not from other different speech, the company's lawyers wrote. Okay, that made perfect sense. All right. The First Amendment mandates deference to the speaker's own decisions about what speech to associate with, even if others might consider those decisions internally inconsistent. Carrano thus cannot stake out a discrimination claim by alleging that Disney accorded different treatment to different statements by different actors. Okay, I'm not so sure I agree with that because she does have a point that Pedro Pascal and Mark Hamill are male, but that is not why they okayed that speech. It was simply because, and this has nothing to do with them being inconsistent. They actually saw what Trump said, and they know the history of what the Nazis have said. They can put two and two together. They are not morons. Gina Carrano first belittles the Holocaust and then tries to claim that it's the other side who are the Nazis. So the only difference is one is historically accurate and the other is not. And it's Gina who isn't. So, no, she's factually incorrect. Now, I don't agree with the reasoning they gave, but she's factually incorrect. They did not attack Trump just because they don't like Trump. And they just throw out Nazi because it's a bad word. No, it's because he and his supporters are acting like Nazis. She, on the other hand, has absolutely no clue what a Nazi is, apparently. Because she seems to think that her opinion is sacrosanct and that nobody could possibly touch her for it. No, you are allowed to have an opinion, and others are allowed to tell you to fuck right off. So, I believe that is the end of the article. It is. Um, anyway, I think I've covered everything that I wanted to with this article. Again, I hope this lawsuit is thrown out. Otherwise, she's going to be handed a serious can of whoop ass come trial time because she doesn't have a leg to stand on. Which is why I think this lawsuit should be thrown out because it is frivolous. Interesting that they didn't mention either she's changed her mind or they just didn't no longer mention it. Like I said, she wants her job back, which I don't care what the results of this lawsuit is. Why would you want to work for a company that fired you, even whether it was within their right or not, whether they had a leg to stand on or not? Why would you want to work for that company knowing full well that even if they were forced to employ you, that absolutely nobody on that set would like you or respect you and would want to get away from you as soon as is humanly possible? Why would you want to work in that environment? Seriously, why would you want to do that? So, now I think I've covered everything I wanted to. And with that, I will see you guys in the next video.